Hello everyone, my name is Benjamin Yoder with One Control Report, here today to talk to you about Industrial Spy Operation Espionage, also known as Espionage-NTS in Japan. This is a Dreamcast, kind of like an infiltration strategy game, I guess you could call it. It was released by HuneX in the year 2000, and it has a really cool aesthetic and some neat ideas, but some of the user interface decisions they make kind of hurt its playability, and it doesn't really provide enough information to the player to help them solve the puzzles of how to get around the environment, which is a shame because I really like this game. It's basically about a team of agents who are infiltrating various facilities like art museums, research labs, and military bases to basically go steal some item or gather some research that they need to complete their mission. And there's a variety of ways to do this and progress through the environments. You know, you have the typical hacking, which can unlock doors or turn on and off certain things in the environments. You can use like chemicals to melt through objects and barriers, you know, disarm bombs, lockpick, things like that. But you as the player don't do these things. Instead, you're an operator who simply controls agents. You start the game with 7 agents, and you can bring 3 to 4 of them on each mission, and each have their own kind of unique set of skills. They're all pretty stereotypical kind of characters with like a hot-headed French dude, a reckless former soldier, a child genius, and a mysterious psychic-powered girl, things like that. And each have their own set of different skills and specialties, and how they navigate through the area are kind of dependent on that. So it allows you to solve problems in different ways. You can also level up these proficiencies for later missions, as well as get new proficiencies as well. You can also get physical capabilities for fighting too, because you'll run across various guards throughout the game, and each character has their own way of dealing with them, whether that be, you know, actually killing them, running away from them, or hypnotizing them. When you as the player control these characters, you're really doing an indirect control system here. There's a menu interface that pops up that allows you to basically send them to different rooms or tell them to interact with various objects. And this hands-off approach allows for like dynamic camera angles as kind of characters navigate around the base. It's got a fun aesthetic that's really complemented by the energetic infiltration music, radio commentary as your team interacts with the environment. And while rare, you'll occasionally get some like story quips about the various situations they're in or how they're interacting with each other. On paper, it's a really cool, stylish game, but unfortunately, the reality of this game is not so great. Starting with the user interface, it's really hard to get a sense of space in this game. You know, you have these list of menu items that you can select, and it's just really difficult to associate those places with a physical location on the map itself. You can easily access this list of rooms on a floor, but how those rooms relate to each other just is not always clear. And even though you might have a general idea of what room you might need to get into, it can be challenging to figure out exactly how you should get there. And I think this might be alleviated somewhat by the map navigation feature. You essentially can open up the map and directly pinpoint the room you want to command someone to go to, which is unfortunately something I found out about fairly late in the game, so I didn't really get to fully utilize this feature, though I will say from the time I did use it, it's pretty inconvenient since there's a lot of steps to access it. You have to pause the game, select the map, select the characters, select the room they need to go into, and also give them the command to go there. It's just not a very clean process to use that feature. It can also be really unclear about how the different sections of the buildings connect. There's often just like a single doorway to get between 2 different sections of a building, and the map only displays one section at a time. So how the environment kind of connects together can be really confusing, and there's definitely times where you'll find situations where a path will be blocked, but another path won't be. So where you're going and how you're approaching an area will matter, because if character approaches it from one way, they won't be able to get there. The other way, they can, and your AI isn't smart enough to figure out that, oh, if I went down this path and I'm blocked, I should go down the other path. They'll just sit there and stare at the door. Unfortunately, just oftentimes it just feels like you're kind of running blind into this game, and it could be something that you could puzzle out easier, I think, if the environments weren't nearly as complex. But there's a lot of depth here in terms of what's in each area. It's not uncommon to have 10 floors or 10 distinct sections to a building, and each of those floors or sections can have anywhere between like 3 to 10 rooms in them, and almost every room has something to do in it, whether that be documents you search for clues, switches you can press, computers you can hack for various things. But what's in these rooms is actually usually not very relevant to what you're doing. You can read research data about some random refrigeration chamber or heating chamber in a level, and you can go and interact with that chamber and do stuff with it and work with its computer, but there's not really a reason to do so because it's not a part of the mission per se, or at least you're not aware that it's a part of the mission. so it's this kind of weird distraction you can kind of go on that has nothing to do with the mission you're on, and it's actually kind of impressive just like how built out and dense these environments are. And it's not necessarily a bad idea, I think, to have this area in a game with just a ton of distractions to prevent you from finding a solution. And this kind of feeds into the timing aspect of this game, because there is like a timer that you're racing against, and the longer you take, the less rewards you get afterwards that allow you to upgrade your characters. But there's just very little feedback to what you're doing in this game. So things like pulling a lever may open a door somewhere, but you don't know where or even if it happened. In the more complex environments, you know, making one change on a lever can be nearly impossible to track where that change was in the environment. There can easily be like 30 plus interactable objects within a stage, but only like a handful of them actually matter. And again, they don't show you what these things do, so you just kind of pull it and you have to just know where in the environment this interaction helps you. Even worse is you can kind of close off paths, so you can like activate a security system that you might lock doors on accident with, or you may pull a switch that messes with the layout of the map, and if everybody's not in the right spot at the right time, it can ruin a run. And I'm not 100% sure, but it seems like there are some mission ending choices you can make where essentially there's no way you can complete it. You'll have to restart the mission. But the game doesn't tell you that. It's not clear that you can't complete a mission usually, so you just kind of keep exploring and looking at things, and because there's so much in the environment, you know, you kind of spend a lot of time just trying to exhaust every option. Once you actually know the steps of what you need to do in a mission, they're fairly short. They have estimates of like 15 to 60 minutes typically, but without the actual knowledge ahead of time of what you need to do, it takes more like hours. You may need to restart the mission multiple times, and because the game doesn't provide you with any information, it often feels like every time you attempt a mission, you're not really learning anything new. It's really time consuming and honestly feels really wasteful to play the game this way. It is worth mentioning I was streaming this game when I played it, so you know I was distracted a bit while I was going through it. You know, I also only streamed for 2.5 hours, so I had to like fit each mission to the 2.5 hour play period. There's no mid-mission saves here, so if you're gonna play through a mission, you got to do it in a single sitting. So maybe that made this whole thing seem worse than it actually is. But unfortunately, at some point, I just kind of gave up, and I used a guide to play through half the game. I followed it step by step, and honestly, even using a guide can be very confusing because, again, you're just pulling levers from a list, not knowing what they're doing. So if you mess up one part of the guide, pull something out of order, or just miss something, it can be really difficult to backtrack and figure out what you missed and why whatever you did was a problem. And you just have to start the mission over again even though you followed a guide. I had it happen to me multiple times. But even though you're lost and confused, man, this game is stylish. I love the look. I love the cast, although they could have probably used more dialogue. There's some light story suggestions here and there, but I do think there's definitely a missed opportunity here to have more between mission dialogue happening. One of the more interesting stories in this game I find kind of super fascinating because it's so incredibly normal. It's just one of the characters is a cancer patient, which is mentioned multiple times throughout the game, and there is kind of one scene where you go and like steal laser equipment to give him treatment, but otherwise it's like this weirdly realistic story about a dude just getting treatment and just kind of hoping he survives through it. And it's kind of unremarkable, but it's so unremarkable that it kind of comes out the other side of just being this really distinct story to see it told in, I don't know if realistic way is the right word, but just like matter-of-fact way of just like, hey, this dude has cancer, he's trying to get treatment, and we're gonna hope for the best kind of thing. Anyways, I love a lot of things about this game. It's just too bad the playing it part is not great. If you find the style appealing, I'll say, hey, give it a go. Don't get hung up on not being able to complete it. Just follow a guide if you need to. But if you're looking for an actually good puzzle game, unfortunately, you'll have to look elsewhere. That's it for this week. Thanks for coming. OneControlPort.com is the website. If you're interested in this game's like art and character design, I recently scanned and uploaded stuff from the Japanese guide. I also included some of the art that you can pull off the game's disc as well. If you want to download that, I'll have the archive.org link in the description. In terms of videos that I have that might be relevant to you, I did a Echo Knight quick play a while ago for the PlayStation, so not a review, but it's just me playing through a chunk of that game. Also, if you're interested in a Japanese import, Team Innocent for the PCFX is a very neat game, kind of adventure puzzle game kind of thing, and I would highly recommend checking that out as well.